Imagine receiving a formal, sealed letter from the government of France inviting you to a secret meeting about the sale of the Eiffel Tower. You would probably think it's a joke. But in 1925, 5 of Paris's wealthiest scrap metal dealers believed it. One of them paid today's equivalent of hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy the tower, only to discover he'd been conned. And the con man who pulled it off had the nerve to try the same trick a second time. This is the remarkable true story of Victor Lustig, the man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice. Victor Lustig was born in 1890 in the small town of Hostine, then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, in what is now the Czech Republic. He was born into a modest middle-class family, but showed 2 things early in life: a sharp intellect and a fascination with cards, gambling, and quick money. By his late teens, he spoke several European languages fluently and had a charming, persuasive manner that made people trust him. He dropped out of school and spent his early 20s drifting across Europe, gambling on ocean liners, picking pockets at racetracks, and running clever small-scale scams on wealthy travelers. His good looks, impeccable suits, and smooth manners often made him seem more like a diplomat than a crook. In the 1920s, Paris was rebuilding and modernizing after the devastation of World War I. The Eiffel Tower, built in 1889 for the World's Fair, had by then stood for more than 35 years. At that time, some Parisians actually disliked the tower's industrial look, and several newspapers complained about the enormous cost of maintaining and repainting the iron structure every 7 years to prevent rust. Rumors even circulated that the government might one day dismantle the tower. Victor Lustig read these reports in the paper and saw a golden opportunity. If the public already believed the tower was expensive and unpopular, perhaps rich businessmen could be convinced the government wanted to sell it. Lustig created a new identity for himself: Deputy Director of the Ministry of Post and Telegraph. Using a talented forger, he produced official-looking stationery, envelopes with government seals, and typed invitations summoning 5 prominent scrap metal dealers to a confidential meeting at the luxurious Hôtel de Crillon near the Champs-Élysées. On the day of the meeting, the dealers arrived dressed in their best suits, curious and excited. With polished manners and believable bureaucratic jargon, Lustig explained that the French government had decided, in secret, to dismantle the Eiffel Tower because upkeep was too costly and the steel could be profitably sold as scrap. He even handed them fake maintenance budgets and projected profits to make the story credible. Finally, in a hushed voice, he added that because the decision was politically sensitive, he was looking for a discreet buyer, and that unofficially, a personal gratuity to speed the paperwork would be appreciated. Among the 5 bidders, one man stood out: André Poisson, an ambitious dealer eager to prove himself in the scrap metal world. Seeing the chance to make a fortune and impress his peers, Poisson offered the best price and quietly passed Lustig an extra envelope of cash as a bribe. Within days, the paperwork was signed and the money transferred. Lustig, his suitcase full of francs, left Paris by train the very same evening. Poisson waited for instructions on when demolition would begin, and realized too late that he had been swindled. Embarrassed at having been fooled so completely, he never reported the crime, which allowed Lustig to vanish without consequence. A few months later, emboldened by his success, Lustig returned to Paris to attempt the exact same con again. He assembled a new group of dealers and repeated his pitch word for word. But this time, one of the invitees grew suspicious, having heard vague whispers about the previous sale. Before the police could set a trap, Lustig sensed danger and fled France for good, but not before newspapers eventually exposed the bizarre scheme, giving him the legendary title, "The Man Who Sold the Eiffel Tower Twice." Lustig's criminal career was far from over. He crossed the Atlantic to the United States, where during the roaring 1920s and early 1930s, he became infamous for dozens of elaborate swindles. His most notorious American trick was selling what he claimed was a money-printing machine. The box contained rollers and chemical-soaked paper that could copy a single genuine banknote, but only twice, slowly, before running out. By the time buyers realized it was fake, Lustig was gone with their cash. Eventually he turned to large-scale counterfeiting of US currency. In 1935, after a nationwide manhunt, he was arrested by federal agents and convicted of running one of the most sophisticated counterfeit operations of the era. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison and sent to the notorious Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary on an island off San Francisco. Even behind bars, he kept his gentlemanly style, often charming guards and fellow inmates. Victor Lustig died of pneumonia in 1947 at the age of 57. Today, historians and true crime enthusiasts still tell his story as a masterclass in psychological manipulation, using forged authority, public rumors, and human greed to make the unbelievable seem real. The Eiffel Tower scam remains one of the boldest cons in modern history, a reminder to question any deal that looks too good to be true. That was the full story of Victor Lustig, the elegant con artist who sold the Eiffel Tower not once but twice. Enjoyed the story? Subscribe for more amazing history shorts and full stories.